Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Great to have you in the mix today. I want to talk a little bit about my experience over the weekend. I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday, and I spoke at a rally for religious freedom. By the way, I tell you every day we are fighting a winnable war. Here's an example before we jump into the rally for religious freedom yesterday. You've maybe been following this story about cheerleaders in the Quincy Independent School District in Texas. Now, you got this outfit from Wisconsin, the Freedom From Religion Foundation. Apparently, they were absent that day in grammar school when prepositions were introduced because the Constitution does not guarantee freedom from religion. It guarantees freedom of religion. Now, these cheerleaders, the players on the team, they come out onto the field and they pray on the field together before every game. And these cheerleaders were putting Bible verses on the banners. You know, those banners that players run through at the beginning of a game onto the field? So they had Bible verses that were designed to be inspirational and motivational for these players that they had painted on these banners. And then the players would kind of run through those banners while the pep band was playing. They get all charged up for the game. Now, this Freedom From Religion Foundation, I mean, you talk about the ultimate puritanical, Victorian, moralistic blue noses. You know what they used to say about Puritans is that they were desperately afraid that someone somewhere was having fun. That was the knock on the Puritans. Wasn't true, but that was the knock. They were afraid that someone somewhere was having fun. Now, the motto for the Freedom From Religion Foundation is similar to that. They are desperately afraid that someone somewhere may be enjoying religious liberty, and they are out there to stamp it out. Now, a judge in Texas, has issued a restraining order that these cheerleaders can be permitted to continue putting these Bible verses on banners at least until a hearing on October 4. That would be Thursday. Now, this is a district court in Texas, so apparently it's not yet at the federal level. But the Freedom From Religion Foundation is going to argue that this is unconstitutional. And ladies and gentlemen, I can prove to you in the next 30 seconds that it is not possible for Bible verses on cheerleader banners in front of before football games to be unconstitutional. I can prove it to you in 30 seconds. It is impossible for Bible verses on cheerleader banners to violate the First Amendment of the Constitution. Do you know why? First word in the First Amendment. What is the very first word in the First Amendment? It is the word Congress. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Congress shall make no law. I repeat, Congress shall make no law. And so if we apply the Constitution as it was framed and given to us by the Founding Fathers, then we will understand that the First Amendment applies to Congress and to Congress alone. It doesn't apply to anybody else. The whole point of the First Amendment was to leave the regulation of religious expression in the hands of the states. The federal government stay completely out of it, whether it is the legislative branch, Congress, or the executive branch, the president, or the judicial branch, the judiciary. Remember, the executive branch executes laws that are passed by Congress, and the judicial branch applies them. So Congress makes laws, the president implements them, and the judiciary applies them. It's got to start with Congress. And the only entity that's restrained by the First Amendment is Congress. So only Congress can violate the First Amendment. It is not possible. If we take the Constitution as given to us by the founders, it is not possible for any entity other than Congress to violate the First Amendment. Now, the First Amendment has never been amended. Now, you'll hear people talk about the incorporation doctrine and 14th Amendment and all that. Forget all that noise. There's nothing to that historically. 14th Amendment was passed in 1868, but in 1876, a senator from Maine by the name of James Blaine proposed the Blaine Amendment that took the wording of the First Amendment and applied it to the states. Would have if it had passed. No state shall make a law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So there was an effort on the part of Congress in 1876 to take the wording of the First Amendment and apply it to the states. That amendment did not make it out of Congress. And the 14th Amendment was passed in 1868. If the 14th Amendment applied it all to the states, then what need was there for the Blaine Amendment in 1876? It's obvious that Congress had no intention of applying the First Amendment to the states when they passed the 14th Amendment. So all that's bogus. It's all a part of judicial activism. So we know that this is not unconstitutional. In fact, the one thing that Congress is prohibited from doing is from interfering with the free exercise of religion. What are they doing here? If a federal government issues a ruling against this practice, that is the federal government interfering with the free exercise of religion, whether it's Bible verses on a banner or prayers before a football game. That is interfering, prohibiting with the free exercise of religion. So who is violating the Constitution? Well, it would be the federal government. It's not these cheerleaders that are violating the First Amendment. It's not a student praying over the PA system before a football game that's violating the First Amendment, because a student is not Congress. Cheerleaders are not Congress. A school district is not Congress. They cannot possibly violate the First Amendment if we apply the Constitution as it was given to us by the Founding Fathers, not as it has been mangled and distorted by judicial activism. So that practice constitutionally can certainly continue. Now let's shift gears just a little bit. I want to talk about what happened